welcome to another episode of Photography 101. Today we're talking about a technique that I learnt whilst I was trying to learn how to watercolour paint during COVID. And it's something that you talk about a lot in art, but I feel like isn't really discussed at all when it comes to photography, when it has a massive impact on the way our images look. So what we're going to have a look at is the colour wheel and how that impacts our photography. As with all of the other 101 videos, I'm going to do an example with you. So we're going to need paints, paper and a paintbrush. Doesn't matter what paint you've got, I only use watercolour just because that's what I have, but any sort of poster paint or anything like that will work. Needs to be in red, yellow and blue. And we will go and have a look at that now. So let's go. Okay, so as I said, we're going to need 3 paint colours. So I have yellow, red and blue. And I think most of us learnt about this at school, so it's probably not too much of a surprise, and it will come back to you, I imagine, as it did to me when I was learning painting. So these are our 3 primary colours. I am going to use a little paint palette to get myself going, but you can just do this straight on paper if you want to. So let's go. As I'm sure you're aware, red, yellow and blue are the 3 primary colours. There are a few arguments in the artist world as to whether they are the actual 3 primary colours, but for today's example this will work. So what we're going to start by doing is taking a bit of our red paint, going to put that in there, taking a bit of the yellow paint, and we're going to mix that together. It takes a bit of playing around with to get the ratios because you never get quite an even split. But as you can see, this is making orange. It does depend on the types of reds, yellows and blues that you choose as to how your colours turn out. But this does give us an orange, slightly muddy, but it is there. Just going to put a bit of red on here. If we mix the red in with a bit of blue, then we come out with a very nice purple, which I'm going to just pop in my colour wheel here. And there's the blue. And finally, we're going to take a bit of yellow and a little bit of blue, because I'm pretty sure it's going to change colour quite quickly into a nice green. There we go. Which goes, if I did a proper circle, which I failed to do, they go together there. There we go. Okay, so the reason I think it's good to play around with mixing the colours yourself is because you get a real understanding of how it all works and how it all ties together. This particularly helps when you're looking at light saturation as well, because if I just add in some plain water here with it being watercolour, you'll see that the colours will start to mix together, at least the ones that are still wet, but they come out a lot paler, and this just is the same as the more light that you add into your image. So the more light you add in, the whiter the colours become, which is why you then end up with a white image when you've got your brightness levels too high. Right, so I've redone my colour wheel so that it's an even split between the colours. And there's a reason I've done that, and that is because when we talk about colour theory, we talk about 2 different types. We talk about analogous colours and we talk about the opposites. So analogous colours are like green and yellow, so they're next to each other on the colour wheel, or pinks and purples. Whereas the opposite colours are obviously the ones opposite each other on the wheel, so these are quite contrasting. So if you had quite a blue image and then you had a pop of orange in it, that would make it really stand out. And likewise, you see a lot of green and red at Christmas. My red's looking slightly more pink, but you get a lot of green and red at Christmas, and that's because they're opposite on the colour wheel. So that's something that you can really use in your photography. For example, I've got this image of a bee on a flower, and it's using the yellow and orange, which are analogous colours. They're right next to each other on the colour wheel, and so it makes for quite a pleasing image for the eye because all of the colours go together. So you've got blue and green are right next to each other on the colour wheel. That's probably why it's so pleasing to have a picture of grass and the sky, just like this one I'm showing you now. So that's a really good way of using those analogous colours next to each other on the palette in your photography. If we now look at images with opposite colours on the wheel, I was looking through my stash and the majority I have are red and green. This one that I'm showing you now is of a lovely flower with a green background. And as you can see, the flower really stands out because it's a contrasting colour to the green. It really separates the foreground and the background in the image. So this is a good example of using red and green as opposite colours on the colour wheel. I love this one of this bee, it's got so much pollen on it. But again, another example of colours opposite on the wheel. You've got the purple of the petals with the yellow of the centre of the flower and the bee. So a contrasting frame around the image with the pop of colour in the middle contrast each other really nicely. So there's a couple of examples there of using opposite colours on the wheel. It can also work quite well if you've got an image that's mostly one colour and then you just have that opposite colour of the colour wheel as a little pop of colour. It can work really nicely, particularly in sort of architecture shots. I hope you found that useful. I just think applying colour theory like that to your photography is really beneficial. It helps you to just add another bit of dimension to your images. Obviously, there's only so much control that you have over that kind of thing, especially if you are out in nature taking pictures of wildlife and things like that. But where you have control of the environment or you have a bit of control over what you're taking, those are the things that really make your images stand out. So hopefully that's been useful. Let me know down in the comments if you're using it, and give the video a like if it was beneficial. And hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye! I'm trying to get my camera to focus on both my face and the paint palette at the same time, and it does not like it. Is that better? Come on.